So 68% of the data falls within one standard deviation of the mean. If we go down back to this diagram, if we go 2 standard deviations above the mean or 2 standard deviations below the mean, we can expect to find 95% of the data points. So 95% approximately of the data values fall within 2 standard deviations of the mean. Back to the picture. We can go from the mean up 3 standard deviations and down 3 standard deviations and expect to find 99.7% of the data, just about all of it. Kind of like what we talked about yesterday or on Monday with the 3 standard deviation rule. So within 3 standard deviations of the mean. And that's the main topic for today. We're going to apply it in a few questions below. But the main thing is for you to recognize this phenomenon that when we have this random data where points land in a normal curve, in a relatively normal curve, 68% can be found within 1 standard deviation, 95% within 2, 99.7 within 3. Those are numbers you will need to commit to your memory. However, I think that you will have them committed to your memory by the end of this worksheet. So we'll go down to this little practice. You get to practice drawing a bell curve. So you draw a horizontal line, and then you draw the bell curve over it best you can. In the middle goes the mean, so we're going to look at the example that we have here. The mean is 10, so we put 10 in the middle. And then it says standard deviation is 3. So we're going to sketch in, kind of like this picture here, we're going to sketch in 3 standard deviations above and 3 standard deviations below. Right, so up 1 standard deviation we would be at 13. If we subtract 1 standard deviation, we'll be at 7. 10 minus 3 is 7. Which gives us, between 7 and 13, we're within 1 standard deviation of the mean, and we can expect to find what percent of our data there? 68%. If we go up 1 more and down 1 more, so what? We subtract 3 from 7 and we're at 4. We're add 3 to 13 and get 16. So now, within 2 standard deviations of the mean, we expect to find what percent of our data? 95%. And then we go up 1 more and down 1 more. So 4 minus 3 is 1, and 16 plus 3 is 19. So here we are between 1 and 19, and we can expect to find what percent of our data? 99.7. Just about all of it. If you got a 99.7% on a test, you'd be like, yeah, I aced it. I got 100. Might as well say. So, then we go back to the questions. So, approximately 68% of the observations lie between blank and blank. Well, that was between 7 and 13. So, between 7 and 13, we could find 68% of our data. And then how about 95%? We just drew that out. So between 4 and 16 is where we find 95% of our data. And then 99.7 would be between 1 and 19. So far, so good? Not that bad. On the back, we'll draw another little bell curve here. Some of mine are better than others. In the middle, we put the mean. What's the mean on this one? 25, good. And we're going to go up 1 standard deviation and down 1 standard deviation. So what do we land at?
30 to 20.
Right? So 20 on the downside and 30 on the upside. And that marks off our first standard deviation within the mean. Around the mean, sorry, I should say. So between 20 and 30, what percent of our data should we expect to find? 68. (15 and 35). So we're adding 5 again. Between 15 and 35, what percent of the data would we expect to find? 95%. Did you already memorize that? 95%?
Yeah.
See, I told you, by the end of this worksheet.
68, 95, 97. 99.
So between 10 and 40, we expect to find 99.7%.
Is there gonna be like more stuff with that, or is it just not?
We're going to apply it in different ways, but that's the main rule that we're learning today. Yep, that's the foundation for all of the rest of what we do. So that now just fill in the blanks. So between 20 and 30, we have that 68%. Between 15 and 35, we have that 95%. And between 10 and 40 is where we have that 99.7%. Next. Okay, so we're taking a little leap here. The first two were pretty straightforward. The data set has a mean of 15. All right, so I'm going to sketch my little, there's not a lot of space in there. So 15 is in the middle there. Standard deviation is 2, and I'm looking for, it's asking this time, what percentage of the observations lie between 13 and 17. So I'm going to start filling in my bell curve. So I'm going to go down to, oh, there's 13, and up to, which is, oh, there it is. It's 1 standard deviation, which is 1 standard deviation goes with 68%. So it just asks it a little bit differently. Try the next one on your own. Did I ever pressure cook? Oh, I did.